Have you ever realized that your daily routine looks like a bizarre psychological experiment to the rest of the planet? We follow a strict, invisible instruction manual every single day, completely convinced that our actions are perfectly normal. Spoiler alert, they aren't. Today we are exposing 50 completely unhinged, unspoken rules of American existence that make absolutely zero logical sense. 1. Every September, the American workplace gets hijacked by an invisible cult called fantasy football. Perfectly rational adults suddenly mutate into aggressive armchair general managers, ready to derail a Tuesday morning meeting over a backup tight end's hamstring. Productivity? Absolutely zero. If you refuse to draft a fake roster of guys you will never meet, prepare to be treated like a ghost until February. Your actual career performance means nothing right now. The only metric for success is whether your imaginary kicker scores enough points to completely humiliate Dave from accounting. It is essentially Dungeons and Dragons for guys who own khakis. 2. There is a bizarre, unwritten law of American road trips demanding you go on a depressing midnight quest for motel ice. You grab that flimsy plastic bucket, peel your shoes off the inexplicably sticky hallway carpet, and march toward the vending area like a doomed explorer. The machine always sounds like a dying lawnmower, dispensing exactly 6 cloudy cubes, half of which immediately bounce onto the dirty floor. And why do we do this? Just to slightly chill a lukewarm soda we bought 3 states ago. It is the saddest victorious return to a room you will ever experience. Everest conquerors had it easier. 3. The American holiday season operates under a terrifying loophole known as the Eternal Fruitcake Displacement Program. These dense, radioactive-looking bricks of candied neon fruit are almost never baked to be eaten. Honestly, who actually chews that? Instead, they exist strictly as threatening projectiles pass between unsuspecting relatives. Rumor has it only 12 fruitcakes were ever actually manufactured in the 1950s, and they have just been circulating through the postal system ever since. If someone hands you one wrapped in festive cellophane, do not bite into it. Just slap a new bow on top and mail it to your cousin. 4. Nothing screams American entrepreneurial spirit quite like a 7-year-old selling lemonade, at least until the local government gets involved. What starts as a wholesome 50-cent operation inevitably triggers a neighborhood crisis when a power-hungry zoning official demands health department permits. You would think these kids were running a cartel out of a cardboard box. Before the afternoon is over, the stand is shut down, parents are furious, and someone launches a fundraising campaign to fight City Hall. Capitalism for children is a brutal, unforgiving contact sport in this country. Welcome to the real world, kid. Do not forget your tax forms. 5. Highway driving in the United States subjects you to a chaotic psychological experiment disguised as roadside advertising. Within a single mile, you will be screamed at by massive billboards promoting salvation, discount fireworks, aggressive injury lawyers, and a sketchy alligator petting zoo. There is a bizarre zoning phenomenon where an adult superstore ad is legally required to be placed immediately next to a sign promising eternal damnation. Spotting the most offensive juxtaposition while flying down the interstate at 80 miles per hour is the ultimate road trip game. Nowhere else on Earth does consumerism look quite this beautifully unhinged. 6. The sheer refusal of Americans to exit their vehicles has created a drive-through infrastructure that borders on total insanity. You can deposit your paycheck, pick up heavy prescription narcotics, buy a caffeinated milkshake, and grab your dry cleaning without ever unbuckling your seatbelt. In some states, you can literally marry your spouse while idling in the front seat of a sedan. Stepping out of your climate-controlled bubble to physically walk inside a building is viewed as an absolute tragedy. Why use your legs when your engine can just destroy the ozone layer while you wait for a donut? 7. Showing up to a neighborhood potluck with macaroni and cheese is a high-stakes gamble that instantly defines your social standing. Bring a beautifully baked dish with a golden breadcrumb crust and 3 types of artisanal cheddar. You will be worshipped as a local culinary god. But if you dare show up with a bright orange powdered cheese box mix that you frantically microwave 10 minutes before arriving, you are silently excommunicated. The suburban judgment is absolutely ruthless. You might as well just wear a sign on your forehead admitting you have completely given up on life. 8. The exact moment the calendar hits September, the entire country is violently taken hostage by the artificial pumpkin flavor industry. It is no longer just limited to a sweet coffee drink. We are talking about cinnamon-infused trash bags, dog treats, air fresheners, and probably motor oil. It is a mandatory orange haze, and if you dare suggest you prefer regular vanilla, people will look at you like you just insulted their grandmother. Resistance is entirely futile. You just have to hold your breath and wait for the aggressive peppermint cartel to take over in December. 9. Announcing an impending marriage online requires a deeply unnatural photographic ritual involving the engagement ring. It is simply illegal to just say you are getting married. You must hire a professional to capture the diamond precariously balanced on top of an autumn gourd, a seashell, or the nose of an exhausted golden retriever. The entire charade is engineered purely so former high school classmates can aggressively zoom in and judge the carrot size while leaving fake congratulatory comments. True romance in the digital age is measured entirely by how shiny the hardware looks against a rustic barn background. 10. Choosing a seat in a half-empty American cinema requires the strategic mind of a military general due to the sacred buffer zone mandate. If there is a row of 20 empty chairs and one lonely person sitting at the end, you are morally obligated to leave at least one gaping seat between you and them. Violate this invisible boundary and sit directly shoulder to shoulder with a stranger? You will trigger an atmosphere of pure, suffocating panic. In this country, personal boundaries are not just polite suggestions. They are strictly measured by the exact width of a sticky, soda-stained armrest. 11. The corporate concept of Casual Friday is essentially a psychological trap designed to ruin your peace of mind. Wearing standard denim is usually safe, but the moment the weather gets warm, acceptable legwear becomes an absolute minefield. Can you wear cargo shorts? Are open-toed shoes going to get you fired? Miscalculate and show up looking slightly too comfortable, and human resources will immediately issue a department-wide email about professionalism that is passive-aggressive enough to peel paint off the walls. You spend the whole day wondering if your Hawaiian shirt is secretly a terminable offense. 12. Waiting at an airport gate introduces you to a brutal caste system where you are mathematically guaranteed to be the absolute last human allowed on the plane. Before they even call your section, the agent invites elite platinum members, active military, passengers traveling with a small herd of toddlers, and people clutching emotional support iguanas. By the time they finally call your miserable boarding group, the overhead bins are completely stuffed with oversized winter coats and duty-free liquor. You are essentially paying hundreds of dollars for the privilege of holding your heavy backpack on your lap for 3 hours. 13. Handing a guest an actual glass cup at a backyard barbecue will immediately make them suspect you are hiding a dark, pretentious secret. The only socially acceptable vessel for any beverage served outdoors is the aggressively bright red plastic cup. It functions as a target for drinking games, a makeshift ashtray, and a canvas for people to misspell their own names with a permanent marker. It is the great equalizer of American society. Whether you are a broke college student or a millionaire grilling expensive steaks, you are absolutely drinking out of the exact same cheap crimson plastic. 14. For some inexplicable reason, there are pockets of the nation where surviving another year of life is rewarded with mild physical assault. Tradition dictates that the birthday victim receives one solid swat on the backside for every year they have been alive, followed by a mysterious extra slap labeled as one to grow on. Adults stand around clapping, pretending this communal posterior percussion is a delightful rite of passage. Meanwhile, the humiliated kid just stands there wondering why aging comes with a mandatory beating. It is a bizarre historical relic that somehow has not been outlawed by Child Protective Services yet. 15. Preparing a woman for matrimony apparently requires her closest friends to form a loud, heavily intoxicated street gang dressed in identical neon t-shirts. The bride is legally required to wear a cheap plastic tiara and a sash loudly announcing her impending wedding while terrorizing local dive bars. This chaotic farewell to single life involves embarrassing scavenger hunts, shots that taste like cough syrup, and aggressively terrible karaoke performances. It is a mandatory rite of passage fueled almost entirely by cheap sparkling wine and the desperate need to create photographic evidence that everyone is having fun. 16. A completely new genre of suburban entertainment has emerged, thanks to our endless addiction to online shopping and opportunistic neighborhood thieves. Homeowners now spend hundreds of dollars on high-definition doorbell cameras just to capture grainy footage of a guy in a hoodie jogging away with their bulk order of toilet paper. Instead of calling the authorities, the immediate reflex is to post the video to a neighborhood social media group with a furious, heavily capitalized caption. It has evolved into a weird digital spectator sport where locals bond over minor property crimes and loudly fantasize about booby-trapped packages. 17. Earning a paycheck by dressing up as a mythological holiday figure in a crowded shopping center is a true test of human psychological endurance. These brave men sit on a velvet throne for hours, maintaining a flawless, jolly smile while being repeatedly assaulted by screaming toddlers covered in sticky candy residue. They listen to impossible requests for live ponies and expensive electronics, all while the exact same festive pop song loops in the background like a military interrogation tactic. Beneath that massive fake white beard is usually a guy seriously questioning every life choice he has ever made. 18. Exercising at a high-end fitness club requires an understanding of towel diplomacy that is frankly more complicated than federal tax law. Accidentally grab the pristine white face cloth to wipe down a sweaty treadmill? The regulars will stare at you like you just committed treason. Drop a damp rag on the floor, and an aggressively fit employee wielding industrial disinfectant rushes over as if you just leaked hazardous nuclear waste. You are paying a ridiculous monthly premium not just for the fancy weights, but to participate in a highly choreographed, incredibly tense theater of extreme public hygiene. 19. The end of October signals a dark time for household pets, who are suddenly drafted into a humiliating fashion show completely against their will. Dignified senior dogs are shoved into heavily padded hot dog buns, while furious indoor cats are strapped into tiny pirate outfits. Humans parade these miserable creatures around local parks, competing for cheap plastic trophies in contests judged with absolute deadly seriousness. The animals endure this ridiculous spectacle with dead, empty eyes, mentally calculating exactly how many expensive shoes they are going to destroy the second they get back home. 20. Whenever a specific massive technology corporation releases a phone with a slightly better camera lens, perfectly rational adults decide to become temporary vagrants. They will literally set up camping tents on concrete sidewalks, enduring freezing rain and massive public humiliation just to be the first to hand over $1,000. The unspoken rule among these disciples is that physical suffering directly translates to elite social status. You could just order the device online from your living room, but that would rob you of the bizarre religious experience of freezing your toes off for a piece of glass. 21. Storing food in a shared university dormitory refrigerator is essentially throwing your groceries into a lawless combat zone. If you do not heavily mark your leftover takeout container with a thick black marker, it is legally considered public property by any roommate returning from a late-night party. Wake up to find your expensive yogurt missing and leave a polite warning note on the door. You have just declared thermonuclear war. The culprit will never confess, but they will absolutely start hiding your favorite condiments out of sheer spite. Trust absolutely no one in higher education. 22. The exact second your body physically touches a chair in any domestic dining establishment, a massive glass of aggressively iced water is slammed onto your table. It is a reflex so deeply ingrained in the hospitality industry that trying to stop it will break the server's brain. Casually request tap water at room temperature and the waiter will freeze, staring at you like you just asked for a glass of warm gravel. To the American palate, freezing your vocal cords before eating a massive cheeseburger is basically a constitutional amendment. Room temperature is strictly for the weak. 23. Sending children away to the woods for the summer comes with a non-negotiable requirement to participate in acoustic psychological torture. Counselors with terrifying amounts of fake energy will force dozens of exhausted kids to sit around a smoky fire and aggressively shout songs that make absolutely no logical sense. The children just mumble along, swatting at vicious mosquitoes and praying for a sudden thunderstorm to cancel the activity. It is supposed to build character, but it mostly just teaches young people how to convincingly fake enthusiasm in useless corporate meetings later in life. 24. Graduating high school demands a very specific photographic ritual where teenagers pretend they are rugged outdoorsmen, instead of kids who spend 12 hours a day staring at their phones. Parents pay ridiculous sums of money for their child to lean thoughtfully against a random brick wall, a rusty tractor, or an active set of railroad tracks. The goal is to project a vibe of rustic maturity, even though the subject gets out of breath walking up the stairs at the mall. These bizarre, hyper-filtered images will then haunt the family living room mantle for the next 3 decades. 25. Surviving a massive steel roller coaster is only the first part of the modern amusement park ordeal. The true nightmare begins the moment you unbuckle your harness and realize the only exit route forces you through a confusing maze of neon merchandise. You are trapped in a gauntlet of wildly overpriced plush toys, branded shot glasses, and aggressive employees selling incredibly unflattering photos of yourself screaming. By the time you finally locate the actual door, you have somehow spent $40 on a glow in the dark keychain you will absolutely lose in your car the next day. 26. The final weeks of public education turn heavy, expensive hardcover books into sacred artifacts that must be defaced as rapidly as possible. Teenagers run frantically through the hallways, begging people they barely spoke to all year to scribble meaningless acronyms across their personal photos. The ultimate prize is proving your immense social dominance by returning home with pages so covered in ink you cannot even read the text. Decades later, you will open this ancient relic, see the phrase "have a great summer" written by a guy named Kevin, and realize you have absolutely no idea who Kevin is. 27. You might expect a commencement ceremony to be a solemn, dignified event honoring years of intense academic dedication. Instead, it closely resembles a chaotic sporting event, complete with deafening boat horns and smuggled inflatable beach balls bouncing off the heads of confused grandparents. Every time a principal attempts to read a student's name, a section of the bleachers erupts into ear-splitting screams that completely drown out the next 4 graduates. It is less about celebrating educational milestones and more about loudly signaling to the world that you successfully survived cafeteria food without losing your mind. 28. The evening before a wedding is supposedly dedicated to peacefully practicing the ceremony so nobody trips over the bride's dress. In reality, it is a highly volatile pre-party where distant relatives size each other up over an open bar and extremely questionable speeches. Everyone loudly promises they are just going to have 1 glass of wine so they look fresh for the photos. That is an absolute lie. By midnight, the groom's uncle is telling inappropriate stories to the caterer, and half the bridal party is aggressively securing a massive hangover for the actual wedding day. 29. Agreeing to saddle yourself with thousands of dollars of automotive debt requires a deeply humiliating public celebration. The moment you sign the final terrifying piece of paperwork, the salesman drags you to the center of the showroom to strike a massive metal gong or ring a giant brass bell. Everyone in the building is forced to stop working and clap for you. You are handed an absurdly oversized plastic key and told to smile for a photograph that goes straight to their corporate social media page. You just wanted a reliable sedan, but now you are the star of a financial circus. 30. Sitting down for a weekend mid-morning meal triggers a compulsory psychological evaluation of the entire menu. Nobody is allowed to just quickly order eggs and coffee. The group must spend at least 15 agonizing minutes verbally debating the merits of heavily modified avocado toast versus the hidden dangers of an unlimited mimosa package. By the time the table actually reaches a consensus and summons the exhausted waiter, it is basically time for dinner. Refuse to participate in this culinary filibuster and just order immediately? Your friends will look at you like you just set the restaurant on fire. 31. Walking into a themed, dimly lit meat restaurant means surrendering all concepts of reasonable human digestion. The menu casually offers a 12-ounce cut as the dainty, petite option, fully expecting a normal adult to consume a piece of beef roughly the size of a car tire. Try to order something that will not immediately put you into a food coma, and the server will stare at you with profound disappointment. In this environment, anything less than consuming an entire farm animal in one sitting is viewed as extreme physical weakness. Your cardiovascular health means absolutely nothing here. 32. Celebrating independence means turning quiet, peaceful suburban subdivisions into heavily active artillery testing grounds. This explosive chaos does not just happen on the actual holiday. It begins randomly in mid-June and continues until your neighbors run out of black market Roman candles. Every night is a terrifying symphony of aggressive whistling, window-rattling booms, and car alarms going off simultaneously. Dare complain about the smoke filling your bedroom or your dog hyperventilating under the couch. You are immediately branded a traitor to the nation. You just have to sit in the dark and pretend you love the smell of sulfur. 33. Simply asking a classmate to a high school dance is now considered a social crime if it does not involve massive production value. Teenagers are engaged in a terrifying arms race where securing a date requires hiring a skywriter, organizing a choreographed flash mob, or bringing a live farm animal to the cafeteria. The pressure to film this elaborate stunt and make it go viral is absolutely crushing. If the target of this massive public spectacle actually says no, the rejection is permanently etched into the digital history of the internet. Romance is completely dead. It is all just performance art now. 34. Popping open a rain canopy inside a living room will cause the bravest American adults to dive behind the nearest sofa in pure terror. It is a wildly specific superstition hardwired into the culture from birth. Even if you just want to dry the fabric out in the hallway, someone will aggressively gasp and accuse you of inviting an ancient curse upon the household. It does not matter if you hold advanced science degrees or manage a massive hedge fund. The moment you touch that release button indoors, you are treated like a chaotic warlock actively trying to ruin everyone's week. 35. Getting trapped near the appetizer table at a social gathering means you will eventually have to endure someone boasting about their supposedly transformative overseas charity work. Rigid rules of etiquette demand that you widen your eyes, nod enthusiastically, and pretend this person single-handedly saved a foreign village by painting half of a fence. You must aggressively suppress the urge to mention that their 2-week vacation cost more than the village's annual budget. If your smile slips for even a fraction of a second, you will be permanently labeled as a cynical monster who absolutely hates humanity. 36. When university students reach the absolute peak of academic panic during final exams, the administration deploys the most bizarre coping mechanism imaginable. At the stroke of midnight, hundreds of sleep-deprived scholars vibrating from energy drinks line up for a chaotic, free breakfast in the cafeteria. Exhausted professors aggressively serve lukewarm scrambled eggs and soggy waffles to young adults whose brains are practically melting. Everyone acts like consuming a massive pile of cheap carbohydrates at 1 in the morning will somehow magically teach them organic chemistry. Spoiler alert, the pancakes do not actually improve the test scores. 37. There is a fiercely regulated sequence of events surrounding a frosted cake that you absolutely cannot mess up. You must stare at the burning wax, aggressively guard your secret wish in your head, and then blast out every single flame with one massive exhale. If even one tiny, pathetic little fire survives your breath, your wish is instantly voided by the invisible universe police. You just blew your only chance at winning the lottery because of weak lung capacity. Regardless of your spectacular failure, the crowd will still clap politely and demand you aggressively slice them a massive corner piece. 38. Expecting a child used to be a private family matter. Now, it requires detonating military-grade explosives in a crowded suburban park just to announce if the baby will wear pink or blue. Americans will literally start massive forest fires, hire questionable crop dusters, or shoot highly pressurized colored smoke out of a modified exhaust pipe just to secure a viral social media video. Guests are forced to stand around eating pastel-colored cupcakes while ducking for cover from flying shrapnel. If your unborn child's gender announcement does not involve at least a minor visit from the local fire department, do you even love them? It is peak reproductive narcissism disguised as a wholesome party. 39. Whenever two strangers are trapped in a confined space, discussing atmospheric conditions becomes an immediate psychological lifeline. It is the ultimate social cheat code. You can stare out a window, confidently state that it sure is raining a lot lately, and the other person will eagerly agree like you just dropped profound philosophical wisdom. It is an entirely neutral territory where nobody has to reveal any personal trauma or wild political opinions. Master a few generic phrases about unseasonable cold fronts, and you can successfully navigate any excruciating elevator ride without ever forming a genuine human connection. 40. A rusty white van slowly rolling down a suburban street playing a distorted, creepy electronic melody should logically inspire terror. Instead, it triggers a massive neighborhood panic as both children and adults desperately scramble to find loose cash. Diets are instantly obliterated at the mere hint of a frozen pop with mismatched gumball eyes. Fumble your wallet and miss the truck's highly irregular schedule? You are left standing on the hot pavement in total defeat. The sound fading into the distance brings a profound wave of despair that can only be cured by violently interrogating the driver tomorrow. 41. Greeting a colleague in a corporate setting triggers an intense, split-second physical and psychological evaluation. Grip the other person's palm too hard, and you are instantly perceived as a massive sociopath trying to break bones to establish dominance. If your hand is too relaxed, they will mentally write you off as a weak, untrustworthy failure. You have to perfectly calibrate the pressure, maintain unbroken eye contact for exactly 3 seconds, and smoothly scan their name tag without looking like you forgot who they are. It is a terrifying silent combat sport dressed up as standard professional courtesy. 42. The day immediately following a holiday entirely dedicated to being thankful for what you already have is violently interrupted by the urge to buy cheap televisions. Perfectly rational citizens will pitch camping tents outside of big box stores at midnight just to participate in a terrifying physical stampede at dawn. People literally throw elbows in the appliance aisle over a discounted air fryer they do not actually need. It is pure, unfiltered consumer combat. Everyone aggressively complains about how commercialized the season has become, right before diving headfirst into a pile of discounted sweaters to snatch the last medium size. 43. Sitting on a patio during the summer comes with free, incredibly morbid backyard entertainment. Homeowners proudly install a glowing neon blue lantern that acts as a deadly electric chair for local insects. Instead of being grossed out, entire families sit around in folding chairs, completely mesmerized by the loud, aggressive snapping sound of mosquitoes being instantly vaporized. It provides a deeply satisfying psychological thrill, like watching a tiny, extremely violent fireworks show. Nobody admits it, but half the reason people stay outside after dark is just to cheer for the machine's brutal, high-voltage kill count. 44. Violently expelling air from your nose in a public space instantly forces everyone around you into mandatory participation in a strange linguistic ritual. Total strangers will aggressively shout for the divine protection of your soul before you even have a chance to grab a tissue. If a coworker sneezes and you just sit there in silence without offering the verbal blessing, the entire room will look at you like you are a cold, unfeeling psychopath. The act has absolutely nothing to do with genuine religious faith anymore. It is just a highly programmed robotic response to a sudden explosion of nasal bacteria. 45. Attempting to order a potato product without a heavy coating of sodium at a drive-through window will instantly destroy the cashier's entire reality. They will freeze, stare at the glowing cash register, and look back at you like you just demanded a burger made entirely out of dark matter. The entire back kitchen must halt their highly synchronized greasy assembly line just to drop a special basket of naked fries exclusively for your weird dietary demands. You will eventually get your food, but expect an incredibly suspicious look, as if you are insulting the very foundation of the American fast food empire. 46. The month of December forces adults to scour terrible thrift stores in a desperate bid to find the most offensive, heavily knitted garment ever manufactured. The objective is to attend a holiday gathering wearing something so aggressively hideous that it physically hurts the eyes of everyone in the room. A simple red vest will get you laughed out of the building. To win this bizarre psychological contest, your chest must feature a three-dimensional reindeer with a battery-operated glowing red nose and actual bells. It is an exhausting exercise in forced ironic appreciation, where looking like absolute garbage is the highest compliment. 47. If you ask an American how far away the nearest major city is, they will absolutely never give you a physical measurement in miles. Instead, they will stare blankly at the horizon for a second and confidently tell you it is about 45 minutes away. We have collectively decided that geographical space simply does not exist. The only measurement that actually matters is the agonizing duration of being trapped inside a moving vehicle. Tell a European you live 2 hours from your daily job, and they will immediately assume you cross 3 international borders every morning. In the United States, that just means you live in a decent suburb, you listen to a lot of true crime podcasts, and there is a moderate amount of traffic on the interstate. 48. Stepping onto public sand instantly turns average citizens into incredibly aggressive land developers. An arriving family will map out an invisible fortress using strategically placed giant towels, heavy coolers, and umbrellas shoved deep into the dirt. This becomes their fiercely protected sovereign nation. Dare to lay your blanket even a few inches within their designated sightline, and you will be subjected to hours of loud sighs and aggressive side eyes. You might legally have the right to sit there, but the silent, heavy judgment radiating from their beach chairs will make you wish you had just stayed home in the bathtub. 49. Placing a complimentary basket of warm carbohydrates on a table before the actual meal arrives is a psychological test that the entire country fails daily. Those soft rolls are supposed to gently prep your stomach, but instead, they trigger a ravenous, animalistic feeding frenzy. The entire table will aggressively demolish the first basket in 90 seconds, demand a refill, and slather everything in thick salted butter. By the time the $60 steak actually arrives, everyone is clutching their stomachs and groaning about how full they are. It is a completely self-inflicted tragedy that we absolutely refuse to learn from. 50. Ordering a stack of flapjacks at a sticky breakfast counter initiates a heavily regulated sugar ritual. The exhausted waitress will slam down a massive metal caddy containing at least 4 violently colorful, highly processed syrups. If you politely stick to the standard maple flavor, the staff will act deeply offended, as if you have personally insulted the chef's hard work. To maintain diner harmony, you are socially obligated to pour a tiny puddle of the terrifying neon blueberry sauce on the edge of your plate, aggressively fake a smile of pure culinary ecstasy, and then quickly drown the rest of your meal in normal maple syrup. Which of these ridiculous American habits are you aggressively defending right now? Tell me the absolute dumbest unwritten rule you're forced to follow in your town, or the one that makes you want to pack your bags. I will read the comments and silently judge your lifestyle. Hit that subscribe button and smash the like, or I am legally mailing an 80-year-old fruitcake directly to your porch. Do not test me.